Okay, it's Thursday, November 21st, 2019. I'm going to do my Tshot today, and we're going to talk a little bit about what a TERF is. I identify as trans and queer, so this is your trans male perspective of what the definition of TERF is. My first impression, I know it's an acronym, TERF are the letters, and it stands for Trans Exclusionary Radical Feminist. This would imply that it's a cis person who would be using this term, not a trans person, because it's trans exclusionary. Exclusionary means to exclude, keep somebody out, exclude them from something. So it's a group of people who don't want to have a trans person within that circle. And the next two terms are radical feminist. I know very little about this, I'll be straight up with that. I've never really identified personally as an activist feminist. I do believe in feminism, but because of the connotations around it, I feel a lot of people, because I lived 35 years in a perceived woman body or butch exterior, that it was one of those assumptions kind of foisted onto me that I wasn't necessarily asked about. The same as being asked about being trans. People didn't ask me if I was trans. They just assumed that they assumed my sexuality and my gender identity, and they assumed it to be a lesbian and a cis woman, which is completely off, really. So for me to take on the title of feminist, I felt like I didn't really fit under that. It was almost like, sorry, my dog's bumping my tripod. It was almost like a next level of being a dyke, being an activist dyke, which I didn't really see myself as, and it also implies like a sort of aggressiveness, and I'm really a pacifist, and if I had to choose a spirituality, it'd be Buddhism. I've always been into meditating and reading Dharma, so yeah. So the way I perceive this term without having read anything yet, which I'm going to do in a moment, I'm going to read some definitions off of the internet. My interpretation would be a very politically active activist in this my live life context would be probably a lesbian, probably maybe a dyke, I don't know. Because, and I just say that because I was perceived as a cis woman dyke for a really long time, and people thought I was this type of person that I'm not. The definition I see of TERF is an acronym for Trans Exclusionary Radical Feminist. The term was coined in 2008. It was originally applied to a minority of radical feminists exposing sentiments that other feminists considered, and then it says considered transphobic, such as the claim that trans women are not women, and opposition to transgender rights and exclusion of trans women from women's spaces and organizations. If anything, I would say I've always been a trans activist. So this is obviously against transgender, this is in opposition to transgender rights, exclusion of women from women's spaces, basically seeing trans women as not real women. I've heard that argument before, and like the trans activist side of defending trans women as being real women. I personally believe that trans women are real women. so this does not accurately describe me in any way. And it is a minority of radical feminists. So like, let's take a look at the definitions of feminism. And I didn't know we were in a fourth wave of feminism, so that's kind of exciting to hear about and know about. First wave feminism was a period of feminist activity, thought that occurred during the 19th, early 20th century throughout Western world. It focused on legal issues, primarily on gaining the right to vote. So this is where the idea of suffragette comes from, and women fighting for the same basic equalities as men, which is the right to vote. I'm not sure, and I feel like bringing up people of color's right to vote. I'm not sure what happened first, so bad on me, but I could see these trendings at different groups needing the right to vote, women needing the right to vote, racial minorities needing the right to vote, all people needing the right to vote. So that was the first wave of feminism, focused on right to vote. Second wave feminism is a period of feminist activity and thought that began in the United States in the early 1960s, lasted roughly 2 decades. It quickly spread across Western world with the aim of increasing equality for women and gaining more than just enfranchisement. There's another bit here. Second wave feminism is a period of feminist activity and thought at the beginning. Okay, it's saying the same thing. So, and some of the signs I'm seeing in the pictures are saying legal, safe abortion, so the right to have an abortion. And I think this just delves more in-depthly with equal opportunity and kind of countering male privilege, like. Third wave feminism is an iteration of feminist movement that began in the early 1990s in the United States, continued till the rise of the fourth wave feminism in the 1910s or 2010s. According to feminist scholar Elizabeth Evans, the confusion surrounding what constitutes third wave feminism in some respects is its defining feature. I highlighted one of the questions, what are the goals of third wave feminism? Because that's a very broad definition. It says, influenced by the postmodern movement in the academy, third wave feminists sought to question, reclaim, and redefine ideas, words, and media that have transmitted ideas about womanhood, gender, beauty, sexuality, femininity, and masculinity, among other things. So basically questioning within academia and social contexts, the patriarchy's influence. There's a word I'm trying to remember. So the overarching patriarchy's seeping into the system in every facet whatsoever, and in ideas, in books, in media, everywhere, that ideas of what women are and should be, and making it in a kind of derogatory context. So saying that they shouldn't have the right to vote, they should be taken care of, like almost made to be like children, like we should take care of them, protect them, keep them at home, don't put them in the workforce. Like these kinds of ideas are being countered. And then we go to fourth wave feminism that began around 2012, is characterized by a focus on empowerment of women and the use of internet tools. So using media, using the internet to empower women and give them voice and human rights and equality in a very deeply patriarchal society. So radical feminism is one of the subsidiary movements of third wave feminism. Here we go. Radical feminism is a perspective within feminism that calls for a radical reordering of society in which male supremacy is eliminated in all social and economic contexts. Radical feminists view society as fundamentally a patriarchy in which men dominate and oppress women. So this other word is systemic, kind of underlying oppression in every form of patriarchal oppression over women. And then that has its own kind of division into this TERF area where there's so... Excuse my dog. He's sneezing. So it's so in steeped in this aggression against the male that they can't, TERFs can't see that trans women are separate in a sense from their body. Like the gender dysphoria is a separation from a mind from your gendered body. So like obviously being a trans person is to the point that you take medical steps to become the opposite gender. So what does that mean? As a trans man, because I'm AFAB, I can be a TERF. Like it's kind of a strange point of view because you're saying just because someone was assigned male at birth that they can't fight for women's rights or carry some kind of subliminal mind that the patriarchy is steeped within their mind because a doctor said that's a male when they popped out of their mom. Like, I don't know how I feel about that. Like, I feel it's very oppressive towards trans people and not very welcoming to women even because there's a lot of different types of women. I mean, we can go through the list of biological arguments. Is like a woman because of their chromosomes or this and that. Like, well, what about like the 48 variations in chromosomes? So like, where do you draw the line, or where do you draw the line of the makeup of genitals and intersex people? Like, how do you classify them, and who makes these decisions? Is it that they see a person that like looks like a man, like me, and assume I'm part of the problem, the patriarchy, and all because I have hair in my face, or if I don't have this because I have male pattern baldness? Like it's just very like, it seems to be very external judgments, and I don't think that this word TERF should be thrown around as much as it is. I mean, for some reason, like, even presenting as I do now, I'm hearing this word being brought up, around me, and how could I be part of that? It just doesn't make any sense to me how I could be part of that, because I am a trans person and I'm pretty out. I mean, I'm making these videos and I'm describing how to transition, and I'm like, I don't really like to talk about my personal life too much, but except in vague ways where I try to explain ideas such as these. But like, how could I be like connected to a movement like this when I'm trans and I am mainly interested in hanging out with trans women, and I see them as women, and understand their struggles, having my own struggles in transition, and I prefer being around trans people, and it's not really even I choose it, but it's not even really a choice, because I've been ostracized from any cis person I know. They've either left, or I've given them the benefit of the doubt, which is probably way too much, to the point of being like, hey, like, this is pretty toxic and abusive and I need to step away. And I mean that in like doing things like attempting to hang out with them over and over and over again, and being stood up like over and over again, and not having messages answered, and them lying to me, saying, oh, I want to be your friend, and yada yada, and it's not because you're trans, but it's like, well, you never respond or go to anything, or so for my own health, I step away from those types of relationships. And it's not just a cis thing, it's happened with trans people as well, but I prefer to go to safe spaces, other like trans spaces, trans events, and lately I've only really been with trans people in a romantic way, so, and I just honestly, it's not that I'm not trying, I like kind of swipe right on everything, but cis people don't say yes to anything, a friendship or a date or anything, so I mean, I can't, you just can't make somebody do something they don't want to, so, and that's how it's been for me since my medical transition, since 2011. Well, I made the decision in 2008, and I know for sure since the turn of this decade, 2010, I haven't dated any cis people. I thought I did once or twice, but apparently it wasn't dating to them, so I can't really count it. But yeah, I don't understand how trans people could call other trans people TERFs, because they're trans, like, it's a really conflict in terms. And even the feminist side of it, I get a kind of like, I don't really belong to, I support it, but I don't really belong to that movement, because I don't have actual time in my life with what I'm doing to be an active feminist and be an active trans activist at the same time, because there's things other than doing this activism work that, like, I like to take care of my health, for instance, and I have disability issues, and I like to skateboard and make art too, so, and play with my dog, so that takes up, living life takes up time, so I can only kind of have time for one area of activism, and if I do have energy or time for it, I prefer to, like I went to the climate change rally this summer. I prefer to be an activist for environmental rights if I have time outside my trans activism. So yeah, that's the my definition for TERFs and feminism and radical feminism, and my kind of thoughts around that. And next we're going to do my testosterone shot. I take doliprane. I take 5.5 cc's per week. That puts me in a male hormone level range. If you are uncomfortable with medical things, please click away and end the video now. But I'm going to show you how I do my testosterone shot, which comes in a little bottle like that. It's an oil, so you have to put it into a syringe. It's an intramuscular injection. And it's a very, very good idea, and if your doctor doesn't do this already, because it's part of the medical protocols, they should be doing it, is to check your hormone levels. And when they check your hormone levels, they do a blood work. They take a sample of blood. It's just a tiny little vial, a little bit. So it's like maybe 2 cc's or something. And well, for me anyway, I also have my B12 checked and iron levels, and I've been anemic in the past, so I have to be very mindful of eating my veggies and or taking my vitamins. And they check if your hormone levels are within a certain range. I can't give you a accurate level. You should get it from your doctor, the actual levels, because it's different depending if you're in the States or in Canada, because it might be nanomolecules per deciliter, or there's another measurement, and it might be metric or non-metric imperial for the measurement. I'd also check, because it's happened to me where my GP was looking at my blood work, and I had written down for myself the actual measurement. I guess 20 to 18 nanomoles. Anyway, I could look it up right now. And it's by age. It'll be by age and weight and blah blah blah. And it's better to go with the smaller measurements. So rather than nanograms per deciliter, go nanomolecules per liter, because it's more accurate, I think, or it might be, you have to ask your doctor. But here on Google, the reference range for total serum testosterone adult males is between 8 to 35. Yeah, they measure me with this one, nanomolecules per liter. Mine is usually around 21. It's like midway. And normal range adult male. So another measurement is 270 to 1070 nanograms per deciliter. Peaks around age 20, slowly declines. Average level is 679 nanograms per deciliter. So I was looking at that and went to my doctor. This was 2012 or 13, and she said, "Oh, yours is in the average range." And I can understand the misunderstanding because on the blood work sheet, it's a printout, and they'll have on the left what the average range is, and then they'll have on the right your results. But because my overall blood work schematic was for a female body, because they changed my name on the documents, but they hadn't changed female acceptable blood levels for like things like calcium, D, testosterone, estrogen, all these things. They have to switch it to a male paper. I think that's what the problem was. So when I went in and she said, oh, it's average, it was 12 or 14, and I was like, whoa, that's really low, what's wrong with it? And she's like, no, that's average for a girl. And I said, I just like deadpanned, like, I'm a man. Like, you're prescribing me testosterone for transition, like I'm a man. So, ask to look at your blood work. Bring it home with you. Bring a copy home with you. Study it. Look at it. I have all the copies of all my blood works I've ever had. And I compare them. I always measure. I go back to the data form. Like, what age am I? How much is this? How much is that? You know, age 19 to, you know, it could be 15.4 at 19 years old. And then it says over here, 40 years old, it should be 13.0 for... You know, like it depends on your body and like your age, what gender you're assigned, what gender you're going to. And anyway, I just discovered somebody I know like had their readings were wrong, or the person wasn't doing blood work, and it should be done every 6 months at least, you know, once you've been on for a while. At first they were doing mine every month for like 3 to 6 months or something, 8 months maybe, and then every 3 months, and then every 6 months. So, and also they were increasing the amount of testosterone. It might have been weekly for the first bit, because I also had to go to the clinic to have my shot administered to me by a nurse. First my doctor, and then somebody else, a nurse. But yeah, make sure you check your blood work and make sure things are good, because it's not going to be balanced by your endocrine system, because it's not male, and it has to be monitored really closely. Okay, so I'm going to do my Tshot. Click away if you don't want to see that. Otherwise, subscribe and give me a thumbs up. And if you have more questions around what a TERF is and radical feminism, or want to add to anything I said, feel free to, or leave me a comment if you feel the same way, being trans male and not interested or starting to feel disconnected from lesbian feminist spaces. Yeah, okay. So just gonna pause for a sec and get ready for... Okay, so I just googled the normal measurement for serum testosterone levels in females is 15 to 70 nanograms per deciliter, or 0.52 to 2.43 nanomolecules per liter. So mine was on the lower end of average for females at one point in my testosterone hormone replacement therapy. And it took me asking my doctor to please move it to the average male range to get that changed. And I think shortly after that I left that physician. You have every right to change physicians as well. So yeah, here's my Tshot for November 21st, 2019. So you want to alcohol spot the area, and don't sneeze on it. And it's been really rainy here and kind of crappy outside, so Yeah, just right into the thigh and the side, upper side part. Man, it hurts so much. Sorry, I got kind of freaked out. Really? I feel like using a thin needle, so I think I'm gonna get rid of these because they're very skinny. So it takes a long time to do the injection. That's it. I'm just gonna put a band-aid on that. I like to just hold it for a second just because it makes me feel more comfortable, so that's what I do. Alright, have a great week. Don't forget to subscribe and like and fight the TERFs. Don't get excluded from safe spaces, okay? Alright, and don't exclude women who are trans women from women's spaces. Have a great week. Peace.